Welcome to Match Night. Not just any regular match night. This is a Match Night special. You know, for the NCAA tournament, they have Selection Sunday. Well, this is our very own Selection Sunday because over the next hour, the three of us, myself, Gareth Wheeler, this is Jordan Wilson, that is Kristian Jack, will be making our selections for Canada's 26-man squad for this summer's FIFA World Cup. Of course, Jesse Marsch will be naming his 26-man squad on May 29th, but we're getting ahead of the game and letting you know who we believe have pole position in our own heads about who will be representing Canada in this, what we hope to be a successful summer. So there's going to be a lot of debate that's going to happen here over the next hour. Just off the top, I just want to state this plainly, and perhaps you guys agree because we've all got out our pen and paper and wrote down that 26-man squad. I found this exercise incredibly difficult, especially because of the unknowns with players' fitness and health and availability. KJ, did you were you scratching your head at times as well, saying, I don't know which direction I'm going to go?
Yeah, really difficult. So bear with us over the next hour.
Programming notes.
Please. Yeah, we also don't have medical records.
No.
So we're doing our best to get into this. But no, really difficult. But I think that also is a good thing for Canada, that we got to a point now in a World Cup where, no disrespect to the last one, but some players went, and I think we all knew that they were never going to really make it an effort even on the pitch. They were just going to just kind of, but now you look at this and you go, okay, scenario here, there, that this every single one of these 26, you could make it an effort where they might make it on the field.
Timing is everything in football.
Was it tough for you?
It was very tough.
Yeah.
Because timing is everything, and I think a few players, will get into it probably, you might have to gamble a little bit with selection. Maybe in a couple of areas as well. That's the biggest thing, is that I'm doing that for fun, right? Who I would like to see there. But Jesse Marsch is doing that, and it's for keeps. You can't really waste or burn one or two players. So that's why it's very interesting to go through this 26 list.
And imagine if it was 23 the way it used to be. But 26, based on the context this time around, makes it very difficult. I don't want to spend too much time looking back, but I think all three of us would agree this is a more, even with the unknowns, is a more talented squad than 2022.
Oh, yeah. Depth. I think there's players that understand their role. I think players that are ready to go and perform at this World Cup. But yeah, I think for me, it's a little bit of a numbers game when you look at positions, KJ, like how many do you take in this spot and in this spot?
Yeah.
But again, there's so many players that if they were healthy, this would make this list even that much harder. But right now, I guess at least when I'm looking at my 26, doing the best of who's able and ready to go and actually contribute for Canada.
I'm eager to see your 26, but
I know I know yours is different from mine, and yours is different from mine. I know that.
The depth is a great point. You know, in Qatar, 14 Canadian players played all 3 games. I think in this World Cup, that number will be a lot more. Every of the Canadian players are going to play. You think about more players are going to play almost 3 games. I think a lot more of the depth there now to go. You can rely on these players to get an opportunity to go in and play at the highest level in a World Cup game to represent their country. And that's the strength of the depth that they've got.
But it's also the reality. It's very rare that teams go into a World Cup with potential minutes restrictions on certain players for not only within games, but even potentially back-to-back games. Okay, this is going to be a surprise to all of us who are making our squads. Let us know in the social chats what you prefer, what you think, and share your ideas as well. All right, without further ado, let's head straight to the goalkeeper position. And here we go. Already one difference. I think it's being made crystal clear that Maxime Crepeau and Dade Sinclair are going to be 1-2 in what order. That still hasn't been resolved. Jordan and KJ prefer Owen Goodman. I'm going to add James Pantemis as the third goalkeeper, a goalkeeper that we haven't seen in a Canada camp for quite some time. But I think based upon merit and who deserves to be part of that equation, James Pantemis certainly is one of them for me. KJ, do you want to start your initial picks? I mean, the goalkeeping position, I don't think there's any big surprises.
No, here's what I have to say about goalkeeper. I have Owen Goodman because I think he's been exceptional, and I think they worked hard to get him. And I also think of a third goalkeeper, there needs to be a possibility that he could be my starting goalkeeper in 4 years, and I think he could be.
Good point.
So that's why I want him there. The next thing we need to talk about is that we know it's Dade Sinclair and Maxime Crepeau, but there's 2 games to go. And every single time over the last 10 internationals, they flip-flopped every time. They played 5 of each. In fact, go back over the Jesse Marsch era, 29 international games. Dane's played 15, Max has played 14. It's just split right down the middle. Both of them are playing reasonably well in MLS. No one's absolutely outperforming the other one. I've been speaking to quite a few people about this, and certainly people who know way more about goalkeepers than I do. And I think the point that came across to me from someone was, how heavy or how light do we want that shirt to feel on the back of the goalkeeper who starts the first game? And I think that's really important. And I think it is lighter by giving it to someone who starts both games coming up. I don't think as a nation we want the goalkeeper conversation to be debated during a World Cup. And if you pick somebody based on that first game the day before, or give them both a game, and then they make a mistake, the last thing we want in a World Cup is going, okay, should we give it the other one? I think as much as the time has taken to get to this decision, the time is now. We need to find out.
I agree. Jesse's pushed this out as far as he can. But you don't want a controversy that's made by indecision. Because I think that you said it, both of their performances have been okay. But the manager, based upon the training sessions, what things are like in the room, who he believes was a better fit with the group that's in front of him, that decision, I'm with you, KJ, the time is now, it needs to be made.
Yeah, and I think when we looked at the World Cup in general, and we looked at 18 months ago or a year, we were like, probably by March you should have decided about who it is. And maybe there was a few decisions that have happened why maybe Jesse Marsch hasn't picked a number one. But I look at it, the people I asked, and even thinking about it, I just wrote names down. And Kripo, I don't know what was happening, but it was my first name. Yeah. And just, there's something about that feels consistent. And this is not a slate on St. Clair and what he's done. Just something when you think about Canada under attack, making big saves, owning his box, Kripo sticks out. And it's not by much. It might be 52% against 48, but it just feels like that'll be his goal. But I'm with you, KJ, about Goodman in terms of the future. I think you need to bring him as a third. He has the potential and the way that he can shot stop and own his area. In 4 years' time, we could be talking about a whole different three. And a guy like Goodman could be leading the line or that goal line as that number one keeper. So bringing him for the third place choice was an easy decision for me.
It wasn't easy for me. It was a difficult one to exclude him. He hasn't been great. He switched clubs mid-season. Hasn't been great for Barnsley. And you can make the argument that Pantemis has been better than the 1 and the 2 who are also playing in Major League Soccer. Goodman has struggled in League One. Like, MLS for me is a superior league to that. Pantemis is playing. He actually pushed Kripo out of Portland, and he remains there. So I just think that if it's merit-based, it needs to be Pantemis. If it's looking into the future, there's going to be plenty of games between 2026 and 2030 for him to get his sea legs. I don't think it's a must-include for me. Let's get back to the starting goalkeeper really quickly. Let's raise our hands if, in our minds, we think that player should be Maxime Kripo.
I did.
I'll raise my hand. Is that 3 for 3?
I think I'd lean there at the moment. It's just not been a position that one person has taken over. That's the problem that they've got. I've watched a lot of their games in MLS, and I think Maxime Kripo, in a difficult team, has played really well for Orlando. I think he's had some really good games, not easy games, and I feel for Dane because I think he's done okay as well. And it's not easy to play goalkeeper for that team. No, it is not easy. There's been some almost, let's be honest, borderline kamikaze phases of play where he's had to do a good job. So, but I will say, no offense, but who we pick isn't really important. What I'm saying is that I really do strongly feel
it's important for this show
that Jesse Marsch has to come out and name that person. The same goalkeeper, in my opinion, has to start Edmonton and Montreal for that very reason, about that lightness of that shirt, and that we know before the World Cup starts that guy gets the opening couple of games at the very least.
Wheels, I wonder how you feel about it, but I felt like St. Clair had opportunities to go out and really push his head forward and be like, this is my spot, and never really grabbed it with two hands. And Kripo is one of those situations where he's stable. Something like and almost trust in like a big moment. And that's why for me at this moment, he inches. He's a little bit ahead. But I don't think Jesse Marsch can make a wrong decision. I think whatever he backs will pay dividends. But if I was to make that choice, I'm putting Kripo.
It's also a compliment to the way that Canada has played defensively with a lot of key players out. They haven't given up a lot of chances in these games.
By design, right?
Like Tunisia, even go back, Colombia, Ecuador, they haven't been games where Canada have been shipping chances where you're leaning too heavily on the goalkeeper. So it's more about fit to me. I still go back to it. The best game I've seen by a Canadian goalkeeper under Jesse Marsch was game number 2. It was Kripo against France. Yeah. And he played great. It wasn't just the saves, it was the way he carried himself. And it's a real top, nation in world football.
And Argentina, too.
It's more of a feel for me. This is, again, it's nothing against Sinclair. It's more of a feel for Kripo right now.
Maxime Kripo has in almost a year has allowed 1 goal for Canada.
Yeah.
And that was a Nico Segur mistake in Montreal against Australia. And the other 2 goals he conceded were in the 89th and 90th minute against Ukraine. Other than that, clean sheet after clean sheet after clean sheet.
Yes. Yeah. Let us know what you have to say. Let's move on to defenders. Now, this is where it's really challenging for Jesse Marsch because of players and their availability and lack thereof. So look at that. We're aligned for the top 8, and we all included a different player at number 9.
Look at that.
KJ with Alfie Jones. I mean, again, we don't have medical records, but he hasn't played since January, and whether he'll be able to play, I mean, your guess is as good as mine, KJ. Kamal Miller gets in as an extra center back for Jordan Wilson, and I just went in a completely different direction.
I love that.
And included Zoran Basong.
Go first, Wheels.
Just with the unknown when it comes to Alphonso Davies at the wide areas. I'll go on and explain that in a moment. Let's go through this. KJ, do you want to explain not just Jones, but your list and how you are looking at the group of defenders that you are naming to your World Cup squad?
I almost had another one on there too.
I was close to adding one.
Very close because of the Davies situation at left back as well. But Basong is an interesting candidate because of what's happening. And again, we don't have medical records, but Alphonso Davies is injured and Richie Laryea is injured. And they're the only 2 players that, and when you think about a World Cup and everybody imagines who's would play at left back, nobody else thinks of anybody else but those 2 right now. Alistair Johnston had to move over there at one point during the Nations League when Alphonso Davies got hurt. So Basong, if you subscribe to the theory where you want players playing in their positions, is that natural player. However, his MLS team are woeful. So, and he's not played much.
He's just come back
from injury. And so, you could argue with the fact that, okay, if there's issues there, you could move Cornelius over there, you could play Alistair Johnston there, you could play Nico Segur there, you could play a few different players in that position. Alfie Jones, for me, if he is fit and able to play, and it's an if, has to be on this squad. He has to be for me because I need 5 centre backs at least, and he might be the one. He might be inside the top 3. He is inside the top 4, I think, for me.
Really?
So he's that polished as a player, defensively very well organised, but he hasn't kicked a ball in anger since Boxing Day.
Yeah.
So again, it comes down to is he ready to be ready and be fit. But what I'm hearing is he's going to Charlotte.
Yeah.
So if they're gonna have him in Charlotte and they're gonna go through it, if he can play in games and then know the squad is announced before that, then for me, I need him in the team.
KJ, it's interesting that you meant when you mentioned about Alfie Jones that you need him in a squad and you need him at top 3 and that you know that he can play. I guess when I was looking at it and why I picked Kamal Miller is because I'm thinking who can understand Jesse Marsch's role and his system the most. And I think also too, everyone can talk about Kamal Miller and the back pass that was way too light. When you're playing Iceland and you're looking at a guy that maybe has struggled under the Jesse Marsch system, but he's left-footed, can play that left side, and when you're looking at a Cornelius that isn't fully healthy, you have to pick 5 center backs. So it's between, for me, either Jones or Miller, and I was just like, I think Miller can cover a multitude of sins more than maybe Jones in this situation. DeFugereau can play on the right side, Bombito can play on the right side, Waterman as well, but there's something about Kamal, it wasn't great the last window, but I feel like he's progressed under Jesse Marsch, and I feel like he's earned his trust a little bit. So that's why I kind of went with those 5 center backs.
Just remember, though, the game that Alfie Jones played, Cornelius went off injured, and he went from the right side to the left back, to the left side of the centre back, and he was excellent.
And you think he's a top 3 centre back for
I think
him?
he potentially could be.
Yeah.
The guy's just played brilliant for half a season for Middlesbrough in the top level of the Championship.
But the problem is he hasn't played for the
Canada.
other half of the season. This is what I can't get over heading into a World Cup. We've seen this before when teams have carried too many injured players or players that haven't played enough. Injury recurrence, unreliability, not sharp, not fit. These are all problems. And look at that, the back, the days since their last matches. These are potentially or if we were spun this back a year, these would be core defenders that Jesse Marsch would have leaned heavily on, and now there's question marks across the board. I think that Moise Bombito, you see him pictured there, you have to take the risk with him. Cornelius is just itching and scratching, like he's ready to go. His sharpness is what's going to be really tested here. These 2 games upcoming are going to be incredibly important for Derek Cornelius. I don't think you need to bring 5 center backs because I go down the list, and if Kamal Miller isn't good enough to make the cut, I don't think that Jesse Marsch would want to play him. I don't think he'd trust him to play him. Wow. So I'd rather play a player that I think that he would actually play. I think you're right, Alfie Jones, KJ. Yeah. If he's fit, he's absolutely in that group. He has to be. Ralph Priso, if he was fit, would be in that group, both ahead of Kamal Miller. I just don't think there's a lot of faith in that player. And I don't think you can afford to carry a player that you're like, well, I have him just in case, but am I really prepared to play him in a big moment? And I think the answer is no to that question.
I thought that too, Wheels, and I'm just wondering, I'm curious what you think. If you go with Moise Bombito and Cornelius, and they're both obviously starting and they're feeling good, but then they're 70%, 80% by like the 3rd match, then you only have 2 other center backs.
I think you got to find solutions. I think that Alistair Johnston might have to shift inside. I think you got to find solutions, honestly.
But I'm just wondering if you're round of 32 and you start pulling like Johnston into the center back.
I get it. You need 5. Because there's times where there's very possibility. You got to put in positions of scenarios, and that's what my squad's based on. There's possibility where you're leading a game, and Jesse Marsch is not someone who'll say, okay, I'll put 3 midfielders on. He's a guy who goes to a back 5. Yeah. And there'll be 3 centre-backs. He's done it before. So that's another to see out the game. Yeah. So Diffuser will play today in a relegation playoff, 62 minutes. So it's good he's playing, and he's very important to this team because he can play right back as well. So I think that, for me, you've got to have at least 5 because of the injury doubts over players.
I totally get that. I just don't know if Kamal Miller is the solution or the answer to that. In an ideal world, yes, but we're not dealing with an ideal situation when it comes to the center backs. And we didn't even discuss Alphonso Davies. This man right here, Tajon Buchanan, most certainly will be included in our 26-man squad and Jesse Marsch's 26-man squad. But who else will join him in the wide areas as well as central midfield? That's where we're casting our attention, or turning our attention to now. It is our Selection Sunday show right here on Match Night on One Soccer. Gareth Wheeler, Jordan Wilson, Kristian Jack with you. Goalkeepers, defenders in the books. Time to now turn our attention to the aforementioned midfield area. Let's put up our boards and reveal the players that we are choosing for our respective teams. There we go. So KJ and I are identical.
Oh, wow.
The only difference is Jordan Wilson has included an extra midfield player in his group.
Absolutely
in Jacob Schaffelberg.
Yes.
Look at that.
You want me to focus on the middle first?
Yeah, sure.
So I picked Osorio because I believe he's a player for Jesse Marsch that can play
left wing. All 3 of us picked Jonathan Osorio. That surprises me.
It does actually. Surprises me. In the 26, I feel like he has to make it for vibes, for the fact that he's versatile and can play different spots. But the leadership, this is his last goal. A player that's been capped, third most caps for Canada as well. I think he's a guy who can play left wing, play right wing. Jesse Marsch has talked about him playing in the middle. I think there's a world he can even finish a match at the 10, if you could so call it. For me, Osa has to make the 26. But what sticks out to me is that on the right-hand side, it's just Buchanan. But I have Schaffelberg, Miller, Flores, and Ahmed all as players down that wing. I think they're all vital and very influential in matches. And Jesse Marsch might have to use these 3 or 4 players in different ways throughout this tournament. I think Schaffelberg makes it.
I think on Osorio and Hoylett, 2 very, very senior level players who carry a lot of weight in that room, you have to find a way to get at least one of them there. And that's when I went through my list, and I had Junior Hoylett at one point, and I got all the time in the world for Junior. I think for Osorio, again, it's about roles, and I'm always situationally thinking, okay, where will you place him on the field? You alluded to it. Okay, if you're winning a game, maybe you go to a back 3. If you're winning a game, Jonathan David's not coming off. Yeah. So Jonathan David goes up to the 9, right? With something, a lesson that Jesse Marsch learned from in the Gold Cup against Guatemala when he had too many forwards on the field. Osorio has the ability to add numbers in that midfield. He's played as a 6. He got used more off the bench in the last 2 games. He's played off the bench in the last 4 games, which shows that he can come on and make an impact. And again, it's about roles for me. Is Jonathan Osorio going to start a game of the World Cup? I think we'd all say likely not at this moment. But that's a player, no matter what role you give him, no matter how many minutes, in the 4, 5, 6 weeks that this group is going to be together, is going to accept that role and do whatever it takes to get on that field and do what it. And that is very, very important when it comes to this. Yeah. It is not just as jurors, we get to see 90 minutes plus 90 minutes. They're going to be together for weeks upon weeks, right? They're going to have so many other times together that we're not going to see that. And those kind of players are so important that I just feel like if I didn't see a position for him on the field, I wouldn't have picked him. But I can see him playing in different positions. And he's been trusted against Mexico. He's been trusted in big games before. So I think he'll get picked.
He has the IQ and the understanding that I feel like is vital to this group. And I think Jesse Marsch will rely on him in a big moment.
6 months ago, he wasn't in my 26. But two things have happened. A number of players have got hurt. That's a big one. Second of all, I think he's earned his way in. I think he's played really well here at the start of the season. It's been difficult at TFC, but I think that he's done his part to put himself in position where it's not just vibes, where he's earned his way into the group. The versatility, KJ, I like as well. Because I think he's probably the fifth central midfielder. Yeah. Eustachio, Kone, Saliba, Chouanier all play in front of him. It's the wide areas which are interesting as well. We think it's going to be Buchanan or Ahmed or some version of it. Flores can spell him in certain areas. We saw Liam Miller come on and start against Tunisia last time. I believe he started down the right-hand side as well. I mean, Ahmed can go over
on the
play
right-hand
over
side
there
when Buchanan was suspended.
Right. So, I mean, there is some versatility there. And Flores could be a real difference maker. Flores is the reason why Schaffelberg's being pushed out for me. I mean, KJ, they're completely different players. But Schaffelberg is being hurt, and I think that this just shows the evolution of the team and what they're going to need to do better at. It can't just be run and gun this summer, and especially when you could be playing in some difficult conditions. I think that the technical players are going to be vital for this team. So I think that means an increased role for players like Flores.
I agree with you completely. I do think that Jacob Schaffelberg will get picked. And I think being a left-sided player, I think in Jesse Marsch's mind, he thinks, okay, if I had to, he could play a few times at left back, a few minutes here or there. Okay. I do think and worry for him about, is he going to get to play in his best position? And that's why I think when you look at roles on this team, it's been a struggle for him since he got sent off. He hasn't started a game for Canada since that moment, and I know he's had injuries and health concerns, so I understand that. He was explosive in the Copa America, and that's going to stand as a reference point for Jesse Marsch. But the facts are the facts. Tajon Buchanan, if healthy, is starting every game on the right-hand side. Yeah, he started 9 games in a row when he's been available. Ali Ahmed has started 14 games since Copa America, and Jesse Marsch loves him on the left-hand side. Marcelo Flores is your next man up on the left-hand side, or Liam Miller. Marcelo Flores is a tremendous player who had brilliant 2 games, has great technique, can score goals, can cut in, work rate as well, and can combine very well with Jonathan David as an inverted wide player, which is really important when we get to getting more goals out of open play. So Flores is the next man up, or Liam Miller, who's about to try and play to get to a Premier League, and he's playing at a very high level. So that's 4 wingers we've named already. Yeah.
Can we throw in another name into that equation in terms of outside right? Richie Larea, depending on what's happening at the fullbacks.
Alphonso Davies can play there.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not worried about those wide areas. That's why I think the decision where KJ and I have added an extra player that's an attacker rather than an extra player in a wide area like you included. Because I do think there's versatility to take players from elsewhere.
Absolutely. I think, too, what kind of made me pick Schaffelberg, I was thinking about all the players under Jesse Marsch's tenure that have excelled and have grown.
He's played the most minutes in that wide area.
And, like, everyone was talking about it. I remember when Schaffelberg had his run, where he kept scoring, he kept being there, Jesse Marsch was raving and just boosted him up. It was his profile. Linear, direct, able to get into people's faces. I understand on that left-hand side you have Ahmed, Flores, who everyone believes as well can play a 10. Miller can play on the right side but likes to play down the left. But it's something about Schaffelberg and that you can go so vertical and be tenacious that I feel like you cannot leave him at home.
It's a great
You can't keep him out at 26.
It has been a struggle for Canada to create goals from open play. And it's no coincidence that Johnston and Davies haven't played in those situations. Yeah. And as for all the love that we give Richie Larea that he deserves, because he was Canada's best player in 25 for a reason, that when they get into the final third, they don't necessarily have what they have on the right-hand side when Tajon can burn an outside winger, get to the byline and get the ball into the box. Yeah. And right now, if you look at it, Ali Ahmed's right-footed, Marcelo Flores is right-footed, Liam Miller's right-footed. So if you have all of those on that left-hand side, then, you know, Jesse Marsch likes verticality. He does.
Yeah, and I almost went so far to think as well, like, this is how committed and married we are to the 26, is that when you think about Schaffelberg barreling down that left-hand side, if it's not Oluwaseyi in the box, you think Larin is scoring from open play and just running. It's about service.
It is.
So there's going to be games against Qatar where maybe they're sitting back, or even against the Swiss, where you need whipped-in crosses, you need willing runners. Schaffelberg is a guy that will cut in sometimes, but it's that service. He just gets around players and he's able to deliver.
I love Schaffelberg, okay? I love the guy. I love the human. I love him as a player. He was my last guy out. He was the last guy off. And it pains me to do that because when he was getting his burn in the Canada team, no Flores.
It's true.
No Liam Miller was limited. Buchanan broke his leg. This was high times for Jacob Schaffelberg. It was almost out of necessity. Now that area of the field for Canada, for me, is just much stronger than it was at that time. Just want a central midfield right now. Is everyone confident that a two-man partnership is the one that's going to work between Eustachio and Kone right now?
Yes.
And if you need to change that up, is Saliba the first man up?
Yes.
The Chouaniers, this is going to be very quick.
Resounding yeses. I'm like,
resounding
the Chouaniers
yes.
set piece pro. I still look at a lack of set piece takers in this Canada team, and that's really troubling for me.
I agree with that too, but you don't get picked just based on the fact that you can kick a set piece. I'm sorry, but like for me, there's actually a big gap between Saliba and Chouanier right now, the way they're playing. Saliba's been tremendous again. I think he got man of the match this weekend, and I have no problem with him playing considerable minutes at the World Cup. Remember this, Kone could be a superstar at this World Cup, but there are we've seen many evidences now of Jesse Marsch pulling him off, because at some point, can we all think that Ismail Kone is going to play 120 minutes? He might in a big knockout game, but usually 75 minutes, it's like, okay, you've done everything, you've ran your race, now let's get somebody else on the pitch, right? And again, this is why I picked my team based on roles. You know, Saliba has been excellent the moment he came on. I keep going back to when Saliba and Kone outplayed Wales and Swansea. Brilliant, both of them were brilliant together. Eustachio is the main man. He has to play every minute. If he can play every minute, Canada can go a lot further than they did in Qatar, because they lost Eustachio in Qatar and they never replaced him. And he's that crucial. There is nobody to replace that guy.
We got to run about scenarios. I'm just so disappointed. Up until now, we haven't seen a three-man midfield with Jonathan David pushed up. Honestly, that's the one thing that we haven't seen. The one wrinkle where I think if you had Saliba, Kone, Eustachio on the field together, I would love to see how that would work, because I think you might need something like that depending on the moment.
Maybe if they're winning a game, but it's not happening now.
It's not happening. Jesse Marsch said it's not going to happen.
I know.
But it's one of those things that we might refer back to if they score one goal in 3 games or something like that. You're like, why didn't we try this? But he's drawn his line in the sand. He said, look, this is how I'm going to play.
My squad, all 3 of those players are on the field at the same time. These are our squads. Let us know your squads as well. Upcoming, the 2 games that KJ's been referencing. Canada, Uzbekistan, June 1st in Edmonton, Alberta, against Ireland, June 5th, the final warm-up in Montreal, Quebec. You can watch both matches here on One Soccer as well as on TSN. It has been Jonathan David +1 in the Canada attack ever since Jesse Marsch took charge of the program. But as we approach the World Cup, it is not necessarily any clearer now who that number 2 may be alongside Jonathan David. This is Match Night Selection Sunday. We're picking our respective 26-man squads. Wheeler, Wilson, and KJ with you. Let's turn our attention to the forward position. Let's present who is making the list for our 26 up top. 4 of them the same. David, Jefferson, Larin, Oluwaseyi. Jordan went with Schaffelberg. KJ going with a potential X factor and Promise David. And I'm a huge fan of Jason Russell-Rowe, and I had a hard time not putting him into my team for a number of different reasons. Promise David, I mean, the multi-million-dollar question is he going to be fit? And based upon the number crunch of other players who are potentially not 100% or racing father time in order to get fit before the World Cup, can you afford to take Promise David? I think that if he's fit, don't need to say, he's in all of our squads. But KJ, you're putting him in regardless, taking the risk. It's worth the roll of the dice for you.
Well, it's May 17th, and he hasn't been ruled out. So I can't not pick him.
Got it.
So
that's what you're doing now.
That's what I'm doing it on.
It also seems crazy he hasn't been ruled out. Other players have picked up knocks in recent weeks for their respective, and they're ruled out.
Yeah.
But this is not the way that Canada's been playing the game.
No, and we spoke to him, and you can watch my interview with Promise on our YouTube channel. And they're waiting, right? They're waiting on the results of the MRI, and by all accounts, Canada is trying to give as long a runway as possible for him to try and make this team. And that's Jesse Marsch's phrase. He's told me that in the past as well. And I do believe that part of the reason why Canada pushed back their reveal to the 29th, when initially it was going to be released 3 or 4 days earlier than that, is to try and get the results for this man's MRI to see what he can do. That will ultimately determine whether he is available for this World Cup. Do I need him to be ready for the first 3 games? I don't.
Really?
I've got 26 men in my team. Okay? But if he can play, if you can tell me that he can play and be available for a World Cup knockout match at the end of June, then I'm willing to carry that player. I've got 26 guys.
Yeah.
I'm willing to. If he's completely ruled out, which I suspect, if you were to ask me what I think is going to happen, I would lean that way.
Yeah.
But as of right now, he hasn't been ruled out. It's a certainty for me.
Can I just counter that really quickly before you jump in? I understand that sentiment. But how many injured players or players with question marks can you actually keep?
It's position-based.
I know it's position-based.
So you have one position?
It's position-based.
No, but
I can keep Promise David because Jonathan David's playing every minute of the tournament. Kyle Larrant will start the tournament because he's played brilliant for Southampton and maybe give you 60, 70 minutes. Taniolo O'Shea has been trusted by Jesse Marsch to come on and make a difference. And I've got Daniel Jefferson, who was an impact sub the last 2 games and made a real difference, winning penalties and played very well as one of the most positive influences of that squad. I'm fine.
I understand that, but there's other strikers who don't have that label with a question mark. The last thing I want to do is go into a tournament with Promise David, Alphonso Davies, Moise Bambito, Richie Larea, Alfie Jones. Like, at some point, that 26-man squad with 3 goalkeepers gets severely limited when you have players who are not fully fit or there's significant questions about. That's what I worry about. And unfortunately, in this scenario, it wasn't just Alfie Jones. It's Promise David that, for me, thank you for trying, but we need to go in another direction because I need someone right now I know is fully fit and I can trust and I can count on at present time. That's my approach. That's
healthy,
Team Wheeler's approach.
If they're healthy and the people who are smarter than me tell me that if they can make it, they have to be. They're too good enough. They're not in my team. They're too good not to be in my team. But to your point, if Promise David doesn't make it, I'm happy with the 4 I've got there, and I'm picking somebody else in a different position.
Okay.
I'm
not replacing him with a striker. I don't need anybody else.
I think what's interesting about our 26, but then also this list, is you guys have 5 strikers, and I have 4, and it's a numbers game as well because we'll get to Alphonso Davies, but Osorio can play that 10 spot, Jonathan David can play that 10 spot, Flores, for me, should be playing that 10 spot. So that gives Oluwaseyi, Jefferson I have, that gives Kyle Larrant, can all play that role. So I was saying as well, when I picked the 4 that I picked, there might be a world as well, if Promise David is back, that as much as I love the player and I love the progress that he made specifically in that March window, that Jebo might not make it for me.
You know, the other thing I would say about Promise David, you can pick him in the team and replace him before the World Cup starts. So,
I'm not thinking that way.
I can have a conversation with him and go, we're going to give you long enough. You are that important to me to go, I'm going to put you in my World Cup squad and we're going to keep checking your chicken. And then I'm going to have a conversation with the 27th player.
I agree that Promise David...
On the eve of the World Cup, you can change it. And I'm going to have a conversation with the 27th player and I'm going to say, if he doesn't make it, you're my player.
Okay.
That's what you're doing now?
Yeah.
I think Jordan and I...
If I don't get the results that tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
I think Jordan and I have subscribed to the fact that we wish that we saw Promise David play more for Canada. I agree he should be a very important player for Jesse Marsch if he was fit, but he hasn't been.
Okay,
There's been a number of different reasons.
If he tells you, if the club and Canada Soccer tell you right now that he is on, and no one knows for sure, he is on pace to potentially be playing in a World Cup, are you going to say no?
At this point, if I have a Jason Russell-Rowe that can play and I know what he can get out of, I like Jason Russell-Rowe because he can specifically play. You talk about rules. He is the one striker who can come off the bench and provide goal. That's what he does. That's what he's done in France. He scored against Monaco a couple weeks ago. I know what this guy can do. I know he can play underneath Jonathan David as well. None of those other strikers can play that role underneath Jonathan David.
If you play 5 strikers in a World Cup, you're in trouble. But weird you don't need another guy.
Weird things. I think you do. Weird things happen. I've seen Spain. I've seen so many countries do this. An obscure, like the 5th striker will come on in a position where you might need goals and you get deeper in the tournament. You see this all the time. That's why when you look around all these squad announcements, there's more strikers than there's positions available. There's always more players in that position because goals are the most important thing, which begs the question whether you go with 4. Whether you go with 5, whether these are the players.
Talk about number 9. Jonathan David's playing every game. Every match.
But we've seen in wide areas. Jesse Marsch, I don't think will resist switching things up and bringing on other strikers if you're chasing a goal in the game, especially if you're in a knockout rank game and going to extra time. Like, I don't think that any of these players have proven that they're 90-minute players for Jesse Marsch, other than Jonathan David. He is the one.
I think one of the
I just want to kind of pivot the question. If these are the players that we're listing, whether it's Russell Rowe, Promise David, and these other 4 that we all agree on, is there enough goals in this Canada team from these positions?
That's a $1 million question right there. And I bring up Promise David playing 201 minutes but scoring 3 goals as well, right? His efficiency. But I think the way that Canada plays and the service that is provided, it needs to be where we cannot just rely on Jonathan David. Leon coming into form right now at this pivotal time in his career and before the World Cup is crucial for this team. But of course they need to score more goals. They need to be a little bit more active in the box. And I look at a World Cup where everyone's kind of riding and thinking about this team. There needs to be Oluwaseyi chipping in, Jefferson doing well, and I think that March window showed a little bit of the quality that's needed from that number 9 position. But KJ, I just want to see a team that is locked in with the goals and diving in a little bit deeper in that role.
I'm not worried about the individuals. It's the collective for me, and I think it's the big thing that Jesse Marsch and his coaching staff are working on. They haven't scored a goal from open play in 7 of 8 international football matches. So they're going to get goals from set piece, hopefully. That's the thing for me, is that this team, from the moment that they've been carved by Jesse Marsch, have been carved in a mold of what do they look like without the ball. And I think they've become a very, very, very good team, international football, without the ball. And without the ball is fine against teams with dominant possession. They've now been handed a World Cup group where I think their first 2 opponents are going to say, you have the ball. And how are you going to break us down? And that is the big question mark for that coaching staff and for Jesse Marsch to do that. He has the players to score, but Jonathan David hasn't scored a goal for Canada from open play in 9 matches. Taniela Oluwaseyi's got 2 international goals. Kyle Larin hasn't scored a goal for over 18 months for Canada. But I don't believe that's necessarily an individual issue. I think it's just part of the system. I do think that we have to remember scoring international goals is hard. World Cup goals come hard as well. And sometimes you only need 4 or 5 to get through a group. We could be talking in 3 or 4 months' time of Canada lighting the world on fire and being a brilliant World Cup team and capturing the imagination of a World Cup nation scoring 5 goals. That might be enough, okay, in 4 or 5 games. So
I think we need to say it as well now before we get into the madness of the World Cup as well. What's going to stick out to me is where we see Jonathan David and if we see him shine. Because a lot of questions have been asked to Jesse Marsch if you should push him higher and should you do different things. And the fact that he's adamant about playing Jonathan David at the 10, if we go through 3 games and there's no goals, that is the first thing I'm going to, because this guy could be a prolific 9 at the tournament. And the fact that he's going to play a 10 in a deeper role, and Jesse Marsch is adamant about it, it is just something that we as the media and people that love this team are going to refer back to. It's a gamble in my opinion, KJ. I know you said you're convinced about it, but I just don't love that going into this role and knowing that you're looking at the goals that only one man has scored for this team, and Bosnia and Herzegovina are going to sit back. They're going to be robust. Qatar, we should beat, but they're going to be similar. Finding goals is difficult, as you've mentioned, and there's one guy I know in the number 9 position that makes that look easy.
I understand why people would like that, but for me, if we start experimenting during a World Cup, we're back to where we were in Qatar.
No, it's just a waste of time.
I think it should Alphonso Davies is playing right back against Morocco.
I think it should.
This makes sense. We're not switching. We're not
Jonathan
inverting.
David continues to play as a number 9. I think it's a mistake that he hasn't done that already.
But Jesse Marsch has the system in place that he's prepared for the World Cup going forward. I do think we can see that, but I think Canada are winning a game if that's
It's not without risk, to Jordan's point, and I agree with you. It's not without risk. Look, just really quickly before we go to break, just one word answer. Who's starting up top? Who's the number one choice for starting up top with Jonathan David?
Kyle Larin.
Kyle Larin?
Oluwaseyi.
I'll go Oluwaseyi
I
as
think it
well.
might be.
By the way, the 201 minutes for Promise David under Jesse Marsch, nowhere near enough.
That one hurts.
Highlights my point. Here are some standout names we did not include in our 26-man squads. Some, or multiple, could end up making Jesse Marsch's 26-man squad, but for the nature of this show, these were some of our near misses. Schaffelberg, gentlemen, that's the one that hurts for me. Jordan, who was your last one?
Promise David. He was 27, but that's because he's not fit right now.
That's the thing.
And look, it's going to be very difficult on my list that I would have Jefferson playing over him. But if Promise David is healthy...
You know who else isn't fit right now? Alphonso Davies. You picked him.
Look, I'm talking about Jesse Marsch. Jesse Marsch doesn't rate Promise Davies. He barely plays for him. Yeah. So I'm like, if you're looking at the four, Oluwaseyi, Larin, Jebo, and if you're looking at Jay David, you're leaving Promise David out. He's left Promise David out. We've seen this. You've been pitch side. And I'm looking at Promise David getting no burn.
We don't have
So
long.
now a Promise David that's 80% is all of a sudden a guy that has to be there? Nah, man.
He has to be. We don't have long.
Does Jesse Marsch think that?
Yes. We do not. we don't have long. I want to speak quickly about Junior Hoylett, okay? Because there's a chance that man may have kicked his last ever professional football. Okay, that man sacrificed for this country and what he's done so many times, and the ability to change the culture for Canadian football and to show up when other people laughed at this nation, to be there and to be one of the best players, to score massive goals, to score against Jamaica, to get Canada the World Cup, to be there consistently. If he doesn't make the World Cup, I want to give him a shout out because he's still one of the best players from set pieces, still one of the best finishers.
Quality.
And I know that he's had a phenomenal career, and it would be wonderful to see him finish it there. It's going to be difficult for him to make the team, but a special human being who's now coaching, hopefully, and one day maybe will coach this national team, because his love for Canada, even though he spent a lot of time out of it, is just, I don't think anybody, I've never met anybody else can equal that.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer. He's played
a remarkable
an incredible amount of games across the top two divisions of English football. To play at that level for so long, it's a testament to how good he's been. And he can take a set piece too, KJ.
That's the thing.
I thought about him.
Put it down. But you know, his ability to play at the highest level in European football, a little bit like Atiba Hutchinson too, but for me, makes him one of the most underrated Canadian athletes of all time. Yeah. I really believe that. Like that is playing at the highest level in the greatest sport in the world, the hardest sport in the world. He's a Canadian, and he doesn't get enough.
But with respect, he can't make the 26.
No, but look,
he can't make the 26 though.
The thing,
like here and now, he cannot make it.
The thing is too with Junior as well. One of those things, and you said Atiba Hutchinson, the first thing I thought about is if you go to Europe or these places where these guys have played, Junior Hoylett and Atiba Hutchinson, people will bow. And here, sometimes you're looking around and you're looking past these guys that have paved the way.
I know.
So yeah, shout out to Junior.
I get it, but like, he's not in my top 30, and I hate to say that.
He's in my 28.
No chance. He's in my. Look, and that's not disrespect.
I know what you mean.
This is about merit. This is about who's in the best position now. And I'm sorry, playing in League Two doesn't.
I don't care about that.
It matters to me.
It's about roles. And if I need someone to go on to play for 10 minutes that can win you a game in a set piece, that guy, every time he comes on, he doesn't need 15 minutes to embed. He's on it right away. I don't care where he plays. Right now, I look at what he's played for Canada and how he delivers. I wouldn't have a problem with it.
There's other players on that. Like I feel that, you know, the injuries to Jones and Priso are just. I think Priso's a player who, up until that injury, worked his way into that equation. I think this World Cup just comes a little bit too soon for Jeevan Badwell. Yeah. Like I think that he wasn't one player that we showed there, but he's a player that right now. I look about how players are playing and whether they're fully fit now and what they can contribute now. Not 4 years ago, not 10 years ago, not even 4 weeks ago. I'm looking right now. And he's one of the fittest players that's contributing right now. There's players like that. That's why these injured players, we are in a very weird position because it's not just one or two players that have question marks. There's a whole group of them, to the point that it was a big conversation in the German media whether Germany should take Jamal Musiala to the World Cup a few weeks ago because he was just returning from an injury. Now we're waiting on players who haven't played for months.
Yeah.
This is why we in this country and this selection is so intriguing right now, because there's variables that, simply put, guys, other nations aren't dealing with it to the magnitude of what Canada is, considering what our depth actually is.
I'll say this for free, Germany, 50%.
They're bringing him. They're bringing him now.
You take him.
Yes,
but I look at the two players that you mentioned, Priso, Jeevan Badwell as well. Just probably a little bit too early, but they are the future. I could see very clearly Priso playing that left center-back role. Absolutely. It's probably this window at this World Cup just might have come too early for a player like that.
Can we bring up our complete squads and just remind you who we have for our 22nd? Oh, look at this, Gareth Wheeler. Team Wheeler, wheels up.
I like your team wheels.
Thank you. I mean, all of our teams are largely the same. It's just those final
details
there's
that win you
I
games.
went with Basong. I think that Basong, because of Alphonso Davies in his status, could end up playing an important role. Here's Jordan's team as well. He's Kamal Miller.
Go on, Kamal!
Jacob Schaffelberg, and just the four players up top. By the way, we all have Jesse Marsch as our head coach. We all believe in the man. He's the head coach. I love how it's down in the corner. And that would have been something if we crossed off Marsch and put someone else on our squad. That would have been controversial. And KJ, this is KJ's team. Goodman, Alfie Jones is in. Promise David is in.
Well done with the graphics team.
Late medical check. Yeah, this looks great, by the way. Nice job by both of you, KJ and Jordan, as well.
Likewise.
So Alphonso Davies, we need to address Alphonso Davies.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny that we've kind of left it till the end, but his injury and his status is so consequential. It's about if he's going to play, it's about when he's going to play, and it's about what the knock-on effect actually is. So KJ, from your perspective, what is the knock-on effect of Canada's star man, the biggest name player, the best player for Canada, and at this very late hour, we're not quite sure where things stand?
Yeah, here's what I know, and there's a lot I don't. I just want to clarify. I'm doing my best and I'm trying to report on this. The German media have reported similar things to what I've heard. I think what's important, the first thing I'm trying to find out is, will Alphonso Davies go to Charlotte? And I don't think he'll be there. And it appears that they're going to keep him back. They want to keep an eye on him and everything like that. The issue with that is that Canada are going to struggle to evaluate him before picking their World Cup team, and he's their captain. So, look, is he not going to make the squad? I'm not saying that. I think he's going to make the squad, okay, based on the fact that what we're hearing on the timeline. But as of right now, the first time we're probably going to see Alphonso Davies is going to be in Edmonton. That's seeing him, not playing. I think at this point, it's a very much what I'm hearing is a long shot for him to play that first game. It's day by day, things can change. But I think it will be a big surprise to see him play that first game because of what's also happened. And now what has happened is this is not an isolated injury. We do the Bundesliga games. It's 3 times.
Yeah,
it's 3 times within the last couple of months. And we've seen the timeline shift each time. And we know the World Cups are fast, that if something happens, God forbid, in the first game, his tournament's over.
Yeah.
So I think they need to protect him in that regard. And I also think we're sitting here developing our squads, that they know what the medical staff will say about Alphonso Davies and, of course, subsequently Richie Laryea, which I think is very important in this aspect. And if there's any doubt or any issues about Richie Laryea, then I think you suddenly have to think about, okay, there's somebody else I may have to bring in to play in that position.
Yeah. I think so too. I think when we picked our 26 as well, the way I broke down the team is Davies, in an ideal world, obviously you'd want him to play a left back role, but maybe it's him coming on against Switzerland, maybe that around the 32 game, even playing an attacking role. As much as if Richie Laryea is healthy, to KJ's point, I totally agree, you can't gamble with both of those guys at the left back role. But I even picked the squad thinking there's guys that could play right wing, but you might even have to put him there for 20 minutes. I think too, when it comes about Charlotte and Edmonton, I'm still in the camp of he might have to miss that for me.
Yeah.
Stay in Germany, get that rehab. Because what is the point? And I know this as a player, you are so stiff getting off of a plane and if you're traveling from there with a hamstring where you're literally just tilted forward on a plane all the time, that is not good for a star athlete in Alphonso Davies. I don't want him traveling all over the country and doing hour trips there, international, Germany, all over. I don't want that.
Charlotte to Edmonton to Montreal.
Ah, bro. No. Stay in Munich.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Although you want to evaluate, fair point. If there was ever a player to gamble on to the very last minute or carry a player that's not fully fit to start the tournament based on the benefit, throughout the tournament, it's Alphonso Davies.
Yeah.
More so than Promise David, more so than Alfie. It's not even debatable because he is a true difference maker in this team. So you need to gamble. The thing is, when building out the squad, which I think that Marsch needs to keep in mind, it's not just about when he can play, it's how much. And whether it can go back-to-back or it can go 90 minutes. KJ, that changes your approach in the way that you're managing games and how you might end up using Alphonso Davies. And more importantly, when. I'm not even talking about timeline when he might see the field the first time, but when he plays a game, what does the next game look like?
Yeah.
It's a very complicated puzzle to piece together.
It is, and we look at it different. I look at it in a couple of different ways, right? We're going to be blessed enough to cover this World Cup, and this could become like the overwhelming story of Canada's World Cup campaign.
Good.
And I don't think people within that organization want that. So how are you going to handle that? For me, I think the only way you do that is being authentic and clear. And you have to be clear. So, at some point, if he's not going to play that game for the World Cup game, the opener, the sooner you can announce that he's not going to play there, the sooner that story becomes less of a distraction.
Yeah.
And the people who are playing in that game need to be the story. He's a captain, and everyone's going to want to know, when are you playing him? When are you going to play him? It's going to be a story that drowns out a lot of other things otherwise, and that's not necessarily a good thing.
We've seen it. We got to go, but...
Yeah. I was just going to say, I don't want him playing half-hearted. So as long of a runway, it's not the first game, it's not against Qatar, maybe Switzerland, but hopefully around the 32.
We've seen in other sports this happen when the star man going into a final just isn't available. We've seen it. Beckham, Rooney at World Cup. That's just England that we're talking about. And this is going to be a completely different scenario. But Canadians want to see Alphonso Davies. And Canada's best chance to have a successful World Cup is having Alphonso Davies participate in one way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
Guys, this has been a lot of fun.
It has.
KJ, nice job. Jordan, nice job. Thank you to our production team as well. Excellent work by all of them. On behalf of everyone here at One Soccer, this has been Selection Sunday Match Night style. I am Gareth Wheeler. We're just a few weeks away to the FIFA World Cup.